Now let's get back to the Supreme Court, where today justices heard arguments over whether the Defense of Marriage Act, or so-called DOMA Act, violates the Constitution.
Now this is the second straight day that the battle over same-sex marriage has gone before the court, and Steve Chenevy joins us from outside the Supreme Court with what's at stake. Steve?
Well, what's at stake here today are benefits for same-sex married couples. And for those inside the courtroom today, it was a bit more of a positive feeling for those who were trying to judge the words and the actions of the justices, who during more than 2 hours of arguments today seemed to be a bit skeptical when it comes to the constitutionality of the Defense of Marriage Act.
Equality!
For the second day in a row, it was an outpouring of emotion outside the Supreme Court, while the justices poured over legal arguments inside, questioning at first, as they did yesterday with Proposition 8, if the case even belonged before the Supreme Court.
It's not unusual, it's totally unprecedented.
Then later showing a more personal side, addressing the issue of equality.
You're saying, there are two kinds of marriages, the full marriage and then the sort of skim milk marriage.
A concept not lost on Leslie Arsenault, legally married 5 years ago in Massachusetts.
What are we, half married? Are our children half children? What is this? We're either married or we're not.
Edie Windsor is the woman who brought the case here, who sued the government over an estate tax bill when her female spouse died.
They were direct, they asked all the right questions, but I felt I didn't feel any hostility.
The support for marriage equality was evident outside the court among both younger
Today, since I've been out here, I've Instagram photos
and older generations.
I think after 35 years being together, we felt, I can't talk.
Hoping an outpouring of emotion outside the court may in some way impact the legal process inside. Much like with yesterday's arguments on same-sex marriage, however, we do not expect to get a ruling until June. Live at the Supreme Court, Steve Chenevy, ABC 7 News.
Steve, thank you. Now, supporters of same-sex marriage are getting support tonight from an unlikely source. Fox News host Bill O'Reilly. He said last night that those pushing for marriage equality make a more compelling argument, that they just want to be treated like everyone else. He said those backing traditional marriage just always turn back to quoting the Bible. O'Reilly came short of supporting same-sex marriages, though, saying that he supports civil unions, but he feels that it's an issue best left to the states.